So we are from East Marsh United in Grimsby, and I'll just say the East Marsh is one ward within Grimsby, one of the most multiply deprived wards in the country, one of what the government are now calling the mission critical neighbourhoods. So we've gone from needing to be levelled up to being mission critical. So I'm not really sure what that means, but it clearly means something. But one of the things that Sue and I do is we co-run our East Marsh Peace Choir. And this is a community choir which is intergenerational and inclusive. And our youngest member is she 13 now?
She's 13, yeah.
And our oldest, I think, is 83.
Yeah.
So, and we meet every Tuesday and we sing together for a couple of hours. And Sue and I firmly believe that the answer to everything and all of the problems on planet Earth is singing.
Yeah. But it's really true.
It is true.
After a really busy day,
Yep.
and you sometimes think, oh, got choir now. And then at the end of it, it's like, thank goodness we had choir, because it kind of is a really lovely way to diffuse a lot of worries and concerns, isn't it? And just come together and sing.
Yeah.
So that's what we thought we would start our session with a little bit today, if you don't mind,
So
if you're all happy to join
so
in with us.
I'm just watching people eating their late lunch and then drinking their tea. So what we're going to do first, before we do that though, we've got to make ourselves singing ready. So I want you to think about your body and your shoulders and your feet and your back and your head, and just move gently through your body however you feel. So you might want to loosen your neck, you might want to like shimmy, you might want to shake it. I do like to shimmy and shake it. And then just gently roll the shoulders and just imagine that you're just expanding. And then lift the rib cage a bit and start to breathe a little bit deeper. So you just... And then just really make that audible in-breath, that big sort of... And a big... And then again... And we're going to imagine that in our middle, we're going to inflate a big tyre around our middle. Now, for me, that's not that hard. It's quite a lot to inflate. So we're going to inflate and make ourselves as big as possible around the middle with our breath. So we're going to take a really deep breath in and breathe and fill. And hold. And then a big... It's a big release. So we always do that releasing with the group on a Tuesday before we sing. So Sue is going to lead us in a very, very, very simple little song.
It is. It's a song called Si Lele, and it was made famous apparently by Bobby Farron. And the reason it's quite sort of known is because it's in a weird time. If the musical people here forgive me, but it's instead of counting 1, 2, 3, 4 for it, you count 7. So that's kind of it's in a strange. But I think we just sing it. So I'll just give you a little demo of this, and it just goes. Si la le, eh, oh. 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 Si la le, oh. We can add a little bit of harmony in that, if anybody feels they can. Si la le, oh. Si la le, oh. So if we all start with the main bit, and then if you feel like adding that little harmony, that higher harmony, please do. Here we go. 1, 2, 3. Si la le, oh. Si la le, oh. Si la le, oh. Si la le, oh. So, thank you.
So, yes.
Thank you for
Thanks
joining us on
indulging
that.
us. Yeah, it was beautiful. I know it's a big ask to ask people to sing and breathe together, but actually when you do, you settle nicely into where you are. And because everybody joins in with such good heart and goodwill, we're all sort of in the same sort of state. So we're going to talk to you about East Marsh United today and who we are and what we do and why. So 2025, how we EMU. So EMU stands for East Marsh United, and we've decided to turn that into a verb. How we EMU means how we do what we do. And this has evolved over the last 7 or 8 years, isn't it? So 2017, EMU was born out of crisis, out of an absolutely catastrophic state on our streets in the East Marsh. We were being run by drug gangs, people were being burned out of their houses, people were being cuckooed. There was just a level of real fear and anxiety on the street. Billy, who is our Chief Empathy Officer, refuses to be Chief Empathy Officer this week, it'll be something else next week. He was a resident on the street, living in the house where he was born in 1960, came back in 2013 to care for his dad, who had dementia, in the family home, and realised that something terrible had happened to the East Marsh, a place kind of absolutely bedevilled with every kind of poverty you can imagine. And then things spiralled out of control. 2017, public meeting was called, and Tracy, a neighbour, said to Billy, "Are you going to that meeting tonight down the road?" And he said, "Well, I hadn't really thought about it." And she said, "Well, your mum would have gone." And so he went. And there were angry residents, and there was the community police officer, and Billy describes, Robocop, local councillor, everyone shouting, swearing, screaming. And he stood up, banged his fist on the table, and he said, "Right, the answer's not coming on a big white horse in the form of the council. And if we want to change things here, we've got to do it ourselves. Who would like to know more? Who would like to talk?" And he explained broken window theory and how basically the East Marsh has been destroyed incrementally over 30, 40 years. It starts with one broken window that then leads to a burnt-out building, a boarded-up house, and the chaos that ensues. And so EMU was born that night in the kind of the burning fires of rage, really. And then a public meeting was held, well, not a public meeting, but Billy invited people, if they were interested in talking and learning more, let's sit together, let's talk. So 15 residents came together. And that Saturday, after that meeting, which I think was a Tuesday evening, they all went out on the Saturday morning, with Billy with his wheelie boombox, all with their own yard brushes, rubber gloves, bin bags, and they cleaned the street. With no funding, no plan, nothing, they just cleaned the street. And that happened for a year, every Saturday with residents. But every Thursday night, they sat together for 2 hours and talked about the problems and what the solutions might be. Fast forward now, how we are EMUing in 2025 is not quite that, is it?
No,
you know, there's still bin bags and brushes, but it's not quite that, is it? So we would like to take you on a bit of a journey. So from that point to where we are today, because that was not joyful at the time. That crisis was not joyful. But what we've done and what's been achieved together with our community over the last few years, there is joy and there is hope in it. And we really want to share some of that with you.
And you can now feel the change, not just see the change, you can feel the change within the community. And it's small. It's small steps, it's baby steps, and it's sometimes a step forward and 2 steps backwards, but there is a definite change.
There is, yeah.
And I think so today we're just going to look a little bit sort of beyond the project work and into the kind of East Marsh United values, our values and our vision. Yeah. And we do have a vision and we do have values, but they have been done collectively as our team. And those values, those values are what we all feel we can live every day. So I've been in my other work, I've been in schools most days of the year, and I see a big vision as you go into the foyer of a school. And I've been looking to see, can I see that vision being lived? Where is the evidence that that vision means anything? Yeah. And invariably, it doesn't. And when I speak to some of the children, they don't really know what it means. And so we were very conscious with EMU that our vision and our values actually mean something to all of us. So they're not just words. They define how we work within our team, within the community, and kind of in everything that we do. And we say a lot at East Marsh United, how we get to the future is the future that we get. You know, we're building an urban village and we're doing it through our values. Yeah.
And I believe, and so we're trying to reimagine what we've got. We imagine a community trying to reclaim itself and its future. That's what we're doing. And we are facing significant challenges, but we are building. Our overarching sort of principal idea is to own in perpetuity for the community 100 houses with a vision of 100 years. 100 houses as an ethical social landlord owned in perpetuity for our community. And that is creating a kind of a community glue, a cohesion and a bond, sort of house to house, door to door, along the streets that we're buying the houses in. And alongside that, trying to ignite a kind of green revolution, planting trees. We planted 30 trees in Grant Thorrell Park. Lots of people said, ooh, don't want to do that. They'll be wrecked within a day. 3 years down the line, 1 tree has died, 1 tree has been damaged. So 28 of those 30 trees are thriving in our local.
I'll say at that point, it was when I just first started working with East Marsh United. And Billy, those people who know Billy will probably have a smile, but Billy said, so Sue, he said, we've got a project. He said, through partners, a great partnership with Create Streets, and we've got 30 trees to plant in the local park, in the heart of the East Marsh community. And he said, I want a big community event. I want all of the schools on the East Marsh involved in this. Me being involved in schools, thinking, okay, it takes a long time to get schools on board. And I said, okay, Billy, when? And he said, 2 weeks. And it was like, 2 weeks. But, that is an absolute kind of straight in at the deep end. Yeah. We did it. We worked together. We worked with the community. We worked with the local. We had the police involved. We had all of the schools involved. The fire service came, did a little bit. We had the local community helping us dig, and we got 30 trees. And like Josie said, there's only 1 that we've lost. So it was kind of, an example of...
It was an example. And at that time, sort of 3 years ago, we were doing everything at breakneck speed. And everything was everything all at once, all of the time. While there were about 3.5 of us on the team. And it was a massive challenge. And we were looking at capacity building and how are we going to achieve this and what are we going to do. We'd got our first 3 houses through the support through the council and in Homes England and the Empty Homes Project. So we'd started with the ethical housing. And so when we were thinking, maybe we'll get 10 houses by 2028, that would be a really good aspiration. We've just opened the front door to our latest tenant of house number 14. So we've done it a lot faster than we thought we were going to be able to. And so that is an enormous part of the work. And the trees, the greening, the houses, all of that kind of neighbourhood glue work has been a massive focus of what we've done. And it hasn't been easy.
And that is how we came up really with our vision, which is growing our East Marsh home.
Yes.
And that isn't, like Josie said, just the physical growth of by planting trees and buying houses. It's about nurturing, and it's about nurturing our tenants, which we do, and we have a wraparound care for those tenants and their families. For example, if there's an issue with payment, we work alongside to find a solution. And so we work with the families. If there are problems with the families, we work closely with the schools to find a way forward. So it's about sort of nurturing and about making, helping people create their forever home, because that's what we want. We would like people to feel that if they would like to, they can stay in this house forever. They can make this their home.
Yeah, because one of our biggest issues in the East Marsh community was that we had an itinerant community. So the houses were built in the middle of the 19th century in a grid pattern, sort of terraced houses in long rows and blocks, a grid of streets, no front gardens, no greenery, long back gardens. And so you're straight out of your house onto the street. In the 90s, with the explosion in sort of for-profit housing portfolios and people being encouraged to buy houses for their exchange value rather than their use value, the actual quality of the properties went through the floor because they were bought up by landlords in Pakistan and India and Cyprus and the United States and China and Iran, and they weren't living, not just in the community that they bought the houses in, but they weren't even living in the country. So they buy 30 houses, give those houses to an agent to sublet. The agents would put tenants in, do absolutely nothing at all. And so that what we've seen is the houses have degenerated to the point where it's no joke to say a lot of them are just not fit for human habitation. So we live right, Billy and I live right in the middle, don't we? It literally is in the middle block. And we've committed to living there so that we can be part of that change and part of that sort of progress and to start to build some neighbourhood glue, because people will come, they'll move into the house. Yeah. All the previous tenants' furniture and stuff's there because they've done a moonlight flip because they're sick of asking the landlord to repair the boiler. So they've disappeared overnight. Another family moves in. What does it, oh, who's all this stuff belong to? They shove it out either onto the street or into the alley. They stay for 6 months. Then the same thing happens. And we're trying to stop that. And we're trying to have a settled community and to encourage people to build a neighbourhood. So of the 3 of our first houses that we got back in the back end of COVID, wasn't it, 2021? 2020, 2021. Of the 3 families that moved into those first 3 houses, 2 have stayed. And the only reason 1 moved out was because the house wasn't suitable for her little girl who had quite complex needs. And since then, the community and the houses that we're buying are becoming more settled, but that's having a knock-on into the neighbourhood as well, because people are finding that, oh, we've got quite nice neighbours now, we've got people who care.
We've got a list, a really big waiting list of people, and that is through word of mouth. There isn't any advertising, because friends are talking, you know, parents at school, they talk, and so people are asking us constantly, can we please come? Because, and it isn't always about the property, it's the way that they're being treated, and they're not able to have any voice at all, and so that is something that we feel we value within our tenants group. So we want, the moment the tenants group is just the tenants, the East Marsh United tenants, but we're asking these tenants to bring along their other neighbours, so that, you know, and welcoming suggestions of, and so one of the little thing that's happening now is that the parents, we're having a trip to a local seaside resort, and the parents are saying, okay, let's do some fundraising. So they're getting together, they're forming little groups within the tenants group, and that feels really healthy to us. Yeah. That these and within that, they're kind of having a little sub-meeting. And it might only be about a trip to the seaside, but we're hoping that develops into greater things.
And they're sharing their concerns and they're becoming engaged in the project, so they will turn up to the events that we're running, they'll come to meetings, they'll bring their suggestions. What they want, I think the kind of universal need on our streets is for something to be done about the disgusting wheelie bins that are just outside people's houses because the alleys are blocked. Something to be done about a general sense of the cleanliness of the street. I mean, you can imagine, you know, the dog mess, broken glass, the sort of detritus of impoverished life just everywhere, all around you all of the time. And it's simple things that people want. They want a nice place to live. They want nice neighbours. They want to be able to go out of their front door and say good morning and not have to do that and look the other way.
And they want the narrative to change around the East Marsh. I mean, the road Josie talks about, the road Josie lives on, was called the Murder Mile. But for a lot of people, it's been their home. It's been in their family for generations. And they don't like that. They don't want that. But they don't know what to do to change that.
So you have to do it bit by bit.
And they don't want to move. And when we've done a lot of door knocking and talking with the residents, they don't want to move. I like it here. I've been born here. My roots are here. My family are here. I don't like the street now, but I don't want to move. So it feels like a really good time for us to work together. Yeah. And it is. And I think we tried a project called 6 Feet of Your Street. And the first experience of this was amazing, and we were kind of suggesting that everybody comes out and cleans from your front door that bit of your street. And we got the council involved, and so they were clearing out the rubbish and cleaning the street, actual street cleaners. We then had play streets with the NSPCC. We got the traffic cleared, and we had a local community. Our group went to make soup and bread the day before so that we could. This was great, but we kind of felt that we were doing it too, rather than with it. The suggestion came from us, the actions came from us, and we've kind of parked that for a while, and we'll revisit that. But what the residents were saying, this is great, but 2 days later, there's crap everywhere again. And actually, it doesn't solve the problem of the alleyways at the back of the houses. And what is happening there is that if people are moving out, the landlords are not clearing the houses, so the new tenants moving in are just tipping all of their rubbish into the alleyways. That is supposed to be the access for the bins, where you keep your bins and take your bins out, but nobody can get the bins there. So the bins are on the front, therefore the rubbish is all that. So as much as with the 6 feet of your street, we had a great day. It was a wonderful way to engage with the residents of that street, but it wasn't kind of getting to the root of where the problem is.
Yeah, so what we do when we do projects like that, we look at that iteration and what we've learnt from it, and we're not afraid to go, do you know what, that hasn't worked. So we're not going to do that again. We're going to take that back, park it. What are we doing instead? So now we're looking at building a community garden in partnership with our local church. So we've got food planters, and there's all sorts growing in there at the minute. Yeah. And we've got a wildflower bed, and we've planted some fruit trees. And so it's thinking in terms of how do we incorporate elements of ecology and the natural world into greening the environment and inviting people in. And we've seen people come past and go, oh, what's that growing in there? Oh, it's a lettuce. Do you want some? Well, can I have some? Yes. Or, oh, you've got some sage there. Can I take some sage leaves for my tea? Yes. And so there's an invitation to people to be more engaged and more involved. And we have planting days, and we have days when we kind of try and bring people together. But what we've learned is if you do 2 people, it will fail. And we've made some of those mistakes along the way. I'm sure lots of other organisations around the country could say the same thing. You've got a brilliant idea, you think you're doing the right thing, you go out and do it, but you don't get the buy-in. So we've gone back, stepped back, and we're working much more on that buy-in and bringing people with us on that journey, and not saying, you know, this is what we think, but actually, what do you think? What do you want? What do you want to see? And it does come back to that sense of safety and cleanliness, actually.
And in a community, in our tenants group, where we meet at a coffee shop, we have a cup of coffee, often there are some of the children there with us, but that's when the real conversations, and that's when they'll say, look, we're so fed up, it's the alleys.
Yeah.
So now we've got a project just starting called Alley Cats, and that doesn't go with, I'm sure you'll appreciate, we're dealing with the local authority with this, and it's finding out who has ownership of the alleys to be able to clear the alleys. But that's an ongoing, so maybe next year at this point we'll be able to give you an update, and we'll have clear alleyways. But
it's one of those ridiculous situations that you can't quite believe. You say, right, so the alleys are an access at the back of the houses. So who do the alleys belong to? They belong to the houses. But they're outside your fence? No, but that bit of the alley is your responsibility. So if you're a homeowner or a tenant, that bit of the alley is your problem. You deal with it. The council will not deal with it.
And the landlords won't, because they're absent, either. Most of them. So there is this huge grey area about the alleys.
So the alleys, it's become a kind of an obsession with us all. What are we going to do about this? And you go round and round and round. So the police say, well, it's not our responsibility. So if something unspeakable is in the alley, could you come and deal with it? No, not our responsibility. It's the landlord's responsibility. The landlord lives in Cyprus. We can't speak to the landlord. The tenant is beside themselves because they don't know what to do. We actually spent £2,500 one Sunday cleaning an alley out because one of our houses, one of the drains got blocked and we had sewage coming up, and no one would come and deal with it because it was a Sunday. So we said, well, we can't leave our tenant in this state for 24, 48 hours. So we rang a company who came to clear the alley, because the water company came and said, well, we're not clearing it. We're not doing that. So we paid an emergency clean-up company to come on a Sunday afternoon and clean everything out. The water company then came back and said, well, the problem is that somebody's been putting nappies in the toilet 3 doors down. And so there's an element of community education that has to take place as well about, Victorian sanitation systems will not take that. But that cost us as an organisation a lot of money to do that, because we are an ethical, social landlord, and we were not leaving our tenant in that state. But when we tell the council about it, they just go, and so, the barriers are there all the time, but we just keep that dogged determined work going to try and create that improvement. And then I think that neatly brings us on to a bit of joy, doesn't it? Because that's all a bit dark. So do you want to tell us about some of the joyful things that we do?
Yeah, I think looking through there, the inspiring imagination and joy through community creativity. Yeah. So one thing that we do is with the Peace Choir, we've joined with another East Marsh community group, which is adults with learning difficulties. They run a weekly choir, and we've come together and we're doing a concert on the 11th of July in a car park on the East Marsh with Opera North. So we've got 26 singers from Opera North coming to be side by side with our Peace Choir and with the Foresight Choir to do an evening. And it's going to be quite different from a lot of their venues. They know this. And I think, actually, it's ticking a few boxes. Yeah, I'm sure. However, I think we're going to have an amazing evening. And the second half of the concert is starting with the Elvis If I Can Dream song. And then we're doing You'll Never Walk Alone. It's quite funny because we've practiced it, you know, as if we're in Anfield. You'll never... and Jerry and the Pacemakers style. And then I had to sit at a meeting with Opera North, and they said, here's our version of You'll Never Walk Alone. And I just
When you walk
okay, this is going to be a very interesting... and they said, is that okay? And I went, that's fine. Because when they come, that's what it will be. Yeah. But no, it's a great... And from that, we've had another 2 choirs come forward and said, look, we would like to do something all together. So in September, we're doing a fundraising evening, and we're going to have 5 choirs all coming together to share in singing. So they're kind of lovely community collaborative projects that are growing all the time. We have another project called the Raw project, which is a grassroots music project. We were donated a lot of technical equipment and sound equipment from a guy called Roy Arthur Wright, hence the Raw. And so we've got this, and this is a 3-year programme that we've been doing to create young bands. So young musicians who are perhaps doing guitars and drums in their bedrooms at home, we're bringing them together with professional musicians, and we've formed 3 different Raw bands. And they work together on workshops, and now we're progressing on to doing an intergenerational band. They've got a gig at what we call Doc's Academy, which is quite a prestigious gigging venue locally. And our young Raw band have got a gig there in the summer, which is fantastic. And we're looking now, we've got a girls' a cappella group formed from that. So there are some really exciting collaborative things happening through East Marsh United as well.
And this week we've teamed up. Over the past year, we've been working with an organisation called Cement Fields, who've partnered with the RNLI, because it's the RNLI's 200th birthday. And with us being on the coast, Cement Fields picked, I think, 4 different coastal destinations to work with, including Cleethorpes. So we've got a massive tent arriving next week for Cleethorpes Beach with a film, and our kids have been doing music.
The schools on the East Marsh have created a piece, which is See Like a Mirror. And it's a kind of a creative song. They've done some songwriting. And so, you know, what we are able to do within East Marsh United is to provide opportunity for these young people. Yeah. And so often you see that opportunity doesn't go side by side with talent. Yeah. And so what we can do is, through this wider funding, we can, like as Josie said, through the RNLI, we can provide opportunity so that all of these kids get a feeling of what it feels like to do something a little bit bigger, a little bit broader than they would normally. So they're the joyous moments, really.
Yeah, and that kind of leads us into talk a little bit about our structure, because we've spent the last year or so talking about how we are going to manage our governance and our organisation, and we decided that a pyramid was just not for us. That we didn't want Billy there at the top telling us all what to do, and then the layers going down, 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 down. So we decided right in the middle is East Marsh United itself, which is the people of the East Marsh. It's the residents, it's the community, it's our schools, it's our partners, our friends and our allies. And then there are 2 circles working there. Jill, Sue, do you want to talk about that in a bit? About what's in there? So what did he say there? Chief Elemental Officer on the organogram. Billy. So there you go, Chief Elemental Officer. So that was what was on his mind that week. So do you want to go through?
Yeah, so like Josie said, the East Marsh United, that is the heart of everything that we do. But that kind of operations circle there is what keeps us, has to keep moving. That's what keeps us going. That's what, kind of like our finance, and that's the sustainability of the organisation. So that we can then keep feeding within the work streams, we can feed the community. And all of that, it is the East Marsh that drive the whole movement of the organogram. You know, whatever we feel is relevant, what needs to be done, is what drives that kind of operational side and then kind of informs the work streams that we do. And even though, for example, my work stream, community outreach, I will then often work with Rachel, I will work with Paula on housing, I will work with Jill on the community part. We all kind of intertwine, even though we all kind of look after particular projects. We're kind of going to a project management model.
PM BOC, if you want to look.
PM
BOC. It's a thing, apparently. We didn't know what it was, but we're learning how to do it. And so that kind of governs that model. And you might wonder why these little pictures, but we've worked with a local artist called Holly in Grimsby, who's a freelance artist, and she has this particular style. So she's drawn all of us in her style. And we've got all these gorgeous drawings of us either being or doing. So there's one of us sort of just in our sort of being selves, and then there's a drawing of us doing things. And these are going to go into our manual, which is going to be called How We Emu. And that is going to be our governance document.
Which looks like the old Haynes manuals for when you had like a mini metro or something. It's in the style of that. So it's How We Emu. Yeah, and that is How We Emu.
And that is How We Emu. So
emu at the heart of what we do. Yeah. And this is we're just the cogs that make the wheel go round, really.
And our focus on that as well, we see in terms of our community, it would be really, really easy, I think, to look at deficit. And to say what isn't there. But Sue, do you want to talk about why we are not deficit-led and what that means in terms of what we do and how we do it? That the ABCD model of asset-based community development.
Yeah, so that it's every person is an asset, and every person who comes to any of our groups and any of our meetings, it's an asset. And I've experienced this with a group that I do on a Tuesday afternoon called Talking Tuesdays, and that's what it is. It's a talking group. It's people coming together. We were started, I don't know whether you're familiar with the Camarados model of the public living room.
Yeah.
It kind of started like that, and we bought cushions and settees, but actually people gravitate to the table, and we sit around the table and we just chat. And what's been really interesting is we were encouraging one of our tenants to come along because she's timid and she's nervous, and she'd been not well for a long time and was not in work. So she came along and she would quietly sit within the group. And gradually I could see that she was including herself in conversations. And there was one week I said, look guys, next week I'm not here. I said, so we're not going to be able to have the group. And she said, right, I'll do it. And everybody was, slightly shocked. She said, I'll do it. I'll open up and I'll set the room. And I know exactly how it's done because I've been watching, and she did. And to us, that was just absolutely amazing, because Nikki is now, she does it. That's what she does. She comes early, she sets the room. And then a few weeks ago, I said, Nikki, I'm going to be late. I said, do you want to check in with everybody? She said, I'll do the check-in. And this has been such a joy to see this, Nikki developing. And now we've got like a little subcommittee because we're fundraising, or the mums want to fundraise for activities during the school holidays. So, and Nikki has put herself forward as the secretary. And what is great is you see all this tacit knowledge coming out, these skills that people know they've got but haven't dared or haven't had the opportunity to share. So it's in these kind of like intimate groups that you get the privilege of just getting a little bit of light. So yeah, that's an example of...
That is a good example. And at the other side of it is the fact that we're pursuing a kind of a challenge to the prevailing narratives in our democracy about how our society should be governed and run. And that's the big stuff. So when we're talking about things like decision-making and democracy, we are involved with projects and groups working on at policy level. I've been working with the Independent Commission on Neighbourhoods this year, looking at actually bringing resourcing and funding directly down into the grassroots, away from councils, away from funding bodies, away from philanthropy, and actually putting it into the hands of people who are living in these places. But it's been a battle. Because I've been invited to, places like Windsor Castle. It's all very nice, thank you very much, your lordship. And, into Westminster. And sort of looking around the room and going, well, who's in the room? Who is in the room? And standing up and saying, I'm here representing my street and my community, but I want you to know that all those people are standing right behind me right now. And I've got a responsibility to go back and tell them what you're deciding on their behalf. And so the Green Paper has now come out, and it's a real pleasure to read it and see some of the things that I've challenged and some of the things that the lived experience team said. No, you can't say that. You can't say we're going to include the community in decision-making. You're going to say you're going to centre the community and the grassroots in decision-making. You're going to put lived experience right at the heart of this, not on the periphery. You're not going to come down my street with your clipboard going, oh, we've ticked that box because we've asked Beryl at number 63 what she'd like. No. And so the paper is reflecting some of that challenge. And so, Billy refers to himself as the free-range East Marsh gobshite. And he does a lot of this going and challenging power. But my job is a sort of an ambassadorial role, so I won't be perhaps quite as...
Josie can be that pain in the arse,
yes,
persistent.
Yeah, I am. I pride myself on going to these things and being a ruddy nuisance for 2 days. And saying, you're not listening. And also I'm saying, so where's our disabled community in this conversation? Where are our black and ethnic minority communities? Where are all the women? Because you can count the white men. You can just go, right, 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh, that's the Lord, that's the minister, where are the, And so it's about making that challenge as well. And I know what a privilege it is to be invited into those spaces now. But my job isn't to go there and have tea and enjoy myself. My job is there to just go and make a bloody great noise. And so that's the other end, yeah.
I'm really sorry I have to go to the next session and start to half 4. Just picking up the point you just made about how inclusive those spaces are. I was really interested in the way that you started the session about some of the impact that community kind of really high tension meetings. We've had similar.
Yeah.
But then I was kind of looking online quickly in terms of the diversity of your ward.
Yeah.
I think it's about
97% white. Yeah. It's a real challenge, and we do have that ethnic diversity, but the tragedy for us is it's so hidden. Yeah. And people are full of fear. We are a reform voting we've got a Labour MP back, but we've now got a reform mayor for Greater Lincolnshire who doesn't actually believe in climate change, renewable energy, retrofitting. She's cancelled the flood defence programme for Lincolnshire, and she thinks that asylum seekers should be living in tents because it's fine to do that in Calais. So that's what we're up against now. And our black and ethnic minority communities hide, don't they, on the East Marsh? It's terrible to see, and the level of abuse and racism in discrimination is awful. And actually this is representative of how we actually are. But we're very aware that we're not. But we have just teamed up with what an organisation called the School of Sanctuary, which is an organisation dedicated to working with refugees, particularly women, and asylum seekers, and providing education and opportunity and ways to integrate into the community. And we want to become an organisation that is a place of sanctuary. So I think it's a really, really good point. Thank you.
Your approach would not have worked in my particular ward
No.
at all, because the whole conversation is dominated by the them and us.
Yeah.
Nothing would have moved forward in a positive way. And exactly the same.
It's devastating.
War, people and like 2 non-white people in the room, and it was horrendous.
Yeah.
And those are ongoing issues and challenges.
Yeah.
But yeah, because I was thinking, oh gosh, I could try and connect people up now.
Yeah. It's really, it's
Experience is totally different.
It's hard.
Yes.
I think what is a big leveller for people is when you do events with food and you invite people to eat together. We've done a lot of that work around food. And when we did Play Streets and 6 Feet of Your Street activity, we found that the black and ethnic minority families came out. But what broke my heart was this parent, this young dad came out with his little girl and he said, "Are we allowed to come?" I was like, "Oh my God, you know, what do you say to that?" I just, "Yeah, of course, you know, come along, come and play." And with that, a couple of Nigerian girls appeared. And then people started to realise it was safe for them to come out. But that was because we were holding that and being very clear that that was for everybody. But it is a massive problem. And, you know, we are going to see huge problems in the next 2 to 3 years in our ward and in our constituency in terms of the influence of reform and that anti-asylum agenda, which is really awful. But because most of our community, it is white, we have to work with the demographic that we've got as well at that kind of street level. But very aware. No, you haven't. Thank you. It's a really good point.
Really interesting if you did do that deep work with that majority community, whether it is linking through the schools or sanctuary.
Yeah.
I think that's how it works.
I think that is the next step. Yeah.
I think there's potential for magic, but you're going to have to break a lot of eggs
Oh yeah.
to do this, but
Oh
do
yeah.
it in a really safe way.
Yeah. Thank you very much for that.
Thank you.
Really appreciate
Thanks for
that. It's a
sharing.
lovely contribution. Thank you. So are you all going singing now with Molly?
No, I'm going to Lorna.
All right, because we're going to go singing with Molly in a bit. But I'm aware that we've talked a lot, and I think because we are running out of time, Sue, are you happy if we
Just
move on to sort of questions
Yeah,
and
if
sort of
anybody has
anything
any
that anyone
questions.
would like to say or ask or observe? Because we've given you a lot. I will just quickly show you that we've got. That's our sort of work stream projects for them at the moment. So there's all sorts of different pieces to the map. And so Billy's working on an East Marsh People's Charter, so we're looking at doing a direct democracy and community organising work. We've got our schools and community-based work, the creative network, the greening work, our homes and housing work. And they all kind of intersect, but we have project leads for particular areas. And so those are all sort of live at the moment, or they've been this year and they've finished, haven't they? Because the Snowdrop Lantern happened around sort of early, well, at the time of the snowdrops. And the heritage paintings and words, that's complete. But all of these other things, a lot of them are sort of iterative at the moment. So we're sort of working through that and looking at how they might link together and how they might be sustainable. So I'm aware that people, you know, probably you can't absorb all that all at once. And then there's this, which is our kind of holistic approach and how we look after each other, because that's really important for us.
Yeah,
you know, how
very
we care for each other in the organisation, how we have an underpinning sort of set of beliefs about what's important. We're thinking of ourselves as good ancestors. We think that we're here now, but I'm 58, you're...
Yeah.
Billy's just turned
Don't even go
65. We know that we haven't got a lot of time left or energy to do this. So we've got to think about how do we step away with grace and say to the next generation coming through, it's your turn now, this is for you. So we're laying foundations, thinking intergenerationally, thinking about sustainability, while being person-centred and nurturing and caring for the people that are working with us right now, but thinking all the time about what's going to come next. And I think one of the things that we've noticed with a lot of organisations is they can suffer from things like founder syndrome, so people who won't give way and won't let the next generation do. And so what we try and do is keep the doors open all the time for that next wave to come in and realise that when our time is done, we hope that we've got something good to hand over. And that what we're doing is actually a drop in the ocean. We're talking about a ward of 11,000 people in a country of 67 million. So, but we can only do what we can do. And I think that's true for all of us. And you can get overwhelmed very quickly if you try and take on anything that's, you know, too big.
I think something else as well, which locally, people tend to think with charity and community organisations, it's just about a free tickets for this, free access to this, free pancakes during half term for kids here, free. And actually, it's much more with East Marsh United, isn't it, Josie? We're hoping that we can support the residents to kind of stand on their own 2 feet and have the confidence to fight battles themselves and know how to get their voices heard. And so it's that future, isn't it? And it's us having to make these changes. And our values, that we're kind of living these values every day, so that hopefully these values will be taken on, and that is what the future will be like. So when we say, you know, how we get to the future is the future we get, it's kind of around that.
It's those, and those were our values that we worked on together. We decided on, we did all the things about, you know, being, you know, ethical and and all of that kind of corpo speak. And then we came up with this, we are imaginative. Because if you don't dream it and you don't think it, you can never do it. We are passionate, we do care about what we're doing. We are in flames of rage sometimes. Trusting. We trust each other and we trust our residents. We believe that everyone is an expert in their own life. And that's important. We are joyful. We're very, 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 very silly. And we make a nuisance of ourselves, and we are gobshites, and we're proud of that. We are genuine. We mean what we say, and we say what we mean. And that is where we are now. This is where we've got to.
Because if we're in a community, if we're not genuine,
oh yeah, tell you,
we don't get a second chance.
No.
You know, if we've said that something will happen, it absolutely has to happen. I had a huge dispute last year with a big national organisation. Something was planned, and at the last minute they said, we're going to have to cancel, we'll come back in the summer. It was like, no, that does not happen. We will not do this. We have got over 100 people coming to the market to this event. It has got to happen. You're not telling me that your organisation cannot send somebody else, because we don't get second chances, because people have had so many times where people have said this will happen and it doesn't.
And it doesn't.
And they've been let down and disappointed, and we are not prepared to do that.
Not do that.
So we will fight.
Yeah. Question.
Yeah, just on that point, so I'm working in a ward in Sheffield that was, I think, mislabelled, we like to say mislabelled rather than labelled, the worst estate in Britain in the 90s, and it's gone through a lot of transformation, but it's still very underrepresented, very marginalised, it's got a lot of high levels of unemployment. And just on that point you just made, I'm just wondering, in the early days, how did you, we're kind of about to re-engage with a kind of community engagement programme. How do you manage not raising expectations when you don't know what the end's going to look like?
That's a brilliant question. We always started from that idea that we're working at the grassroots. So we try really hard to not go, I've got this absolutely brilliant idea and this is going to be amazing, and then go and impose it on people. We've done that and it's failed. So what we try and do is try and gauge, what will people go with? What will they do? They like food, they like to feel safe, they like to feel heard. So if you can combine a very kind of light touch sort of consultation without clipboards, lanyards and all the rest of it, and there's sandwiches and cake and tea and an opportunity to have a chat, and you're saying to people, what's it like down your end then? What's going on? And then you're getting a sense, and what you'll find is that the patterns will surprise you probably, because you might be thinking it's all great big things. For one consultation, it's the amount of dog mess. And when people really are passionate and they really care about these things, and you sometimes have to say, there's nothing I can do about that. However, I know somebody, and I will talk, and we will keep going and annoying the council, and we will keep saying that. So I always think tea, food, listen, and don't offer anything if you think, I don't think we can deliver that. And do it incrementally, slowly. We've realised that this is a marathon, not a sprint. And you can risk burnout, and you can risk overflowing your capacity, and you can risk the health and well-being of your organisation. So small steps, small things, but things that matter to people. And that listening and a bit of kindness, and a bit of love, actually. I mean, it all comes down to that, you know, I've sort of said a few times, you know, the Beatles were kind of right in a way. All you need is love. It isn't, actually, but if you don't have love, you don't have anything.
And it is kindness,
And it is.
I think.
Yeah, be kind. Be kind
Something
to yourselves.
in terms of engaging with the young kids, I'd like a wish line, a washing line of wishes.
We've done the wish lines, yeah.
And you know that's always lovely, and got some very good doable.
Yeah.
And I think that's what it is. It's what you feel you can do, and what you feel you can comfortably manage.
Yeah.
And I think that then kind of transfers. So.
And side by side.
But if you want to talk or whatever,
Yeah, we're around
please
for the rest
do.
of the weekend. Charlotte, did you have a
Anything we can
question?
share.
Sorry, Sue.
Just a small curiosity, really. In 2017, amongst the crisis, when they very first started having those conversations, do you know where the spaces were that they met up? Because one of the issues arising is the harness they
This was a problem. We met in our local church, because our church is an unusual church. There's the St. John's and St. Stephen's, the church, but next to it is the Shalom, the youth project that was set up in 1972 when John Ellis arrived from Belfast with his wife, newly married as the new vicar, set up the youth project in 1972. And Billy was a Shell kid. Most people who've lived and grown up on the East Marsh have gone through the Shell. And the Shell is more than a church. It is a home. And so John basically said to Billy, you can have the church. So if you've got a friendly vicar or a friendly mosque or, a friendly, whatever, ask them, because they are now one of our biggest partners and friends and allies.
And schools can be good.
And schools can be good too. Yeah.
Schools, they can be good allies. I think a lot of them, they're wanting to engage with their parents much more.
Yeah.
And I think that could be a really good way.
Yeah, absolutely.
For schools to engage with parents. So
just knock on the door and ask. Yeah, and
just be a bloody nuisance.
Yeah, make an absolute nuisance of yourself. And refuse to go away. But yeah, that is a really good question. We are so space poor, aren't we, in our communities? All of our resources have been taken away. Our community centres have been shut down. Our libraries have been closed. Places where we used to go, youth services, we've been eviscerated. I think had it been necessary, I think Billy would have held the meetings under the trees in the park. But actually, yeah, you mean. Yeah, massively.
And all of them have a thread of, like you said, if it had to be under a tree,
yeah.
it had to be under a tree. Like if you've been to Civic Square, we've just got one plug now. It's been 5 years of all sorts of chaos.
Yeah.
COVID, closing the hub,
yeah.
losing space. And so I do think that there's a really critical thing is, even though I think pay your bills with the thing, rather than it be after the thing you pay your bills with.
Yeah.
But I think we have to not lose what made us come into it, which is like when it isn't jobs and when it isn't professionalised, if you needed to meet under a tree,
You would.
you would meet under a tree. Somehow we've got to be able to intercept like the rawness of what it means to organise it, and I think fight back for the spaces where people can come together.
Yeah, absolutely.
But also be okay with saying, we can't just do that. We can't just like participate in the dominant economy in the day to pay our bills.
Yeah.
And in the 2 hours at night, we will do the work to fill that gap. So somehow we've got to be able to like traverse that. And a lot of us are trying to figure out how do you meet under a tree and it be the thing you're spending most of your day on, not just the
absolutely. Yeah.
I know that's a big challenge.
It is for all of us, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, our next dream is this. We've just bought some land. So
That is the emu's nest.
That's the nest.
Call it the emu's nest. Yeah.
so we haven't, that's just a fantasy. That ain't
That's
happening.
not reality.
We haven't got any money. We bought the land. It took nearly 3 years to get a piece of land off the church. Yeah, so we've got this gorgeous meadow beside the church, but because of the way the system works and the system brutalises community groups, we had a promise of 90,000 from UKSP funding via the council. Because our solicitors took so long to get their fingers out of their holes, we lost the 90 grand. It went over the deadline and the money went back to government. So we are now 90 grand down, which would have been our start-up pot for building. So we go up to him and we go, oh, we've got a lovely meadow. What are we going to do with the meadow? We are working with, it's the Wiki House people. Working with Wiki House, looking at Wiki House and Wiki building and all sorts of things. But what we're doing now, we're going to go back. I think we'll go back and we will start dreaming it again, because I do strongly believe that you start with that dream. The imagination, you think it. Pardon? Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I think this is so important. Like, every project that I see comes back to the fact that
We've lost our space. Yeah.
And like, these things are fundable. So I just think it's so
It is.
so important.
It is.
We've got the dream there as well.
Yeah.
I'm vice versa.
Yes. Thank you ever so much for passing. Has anybody got any closing comments or questions or anything they want to ask right now? Or
We're around tomorrow as
we're
well,
around
aren't we?
tomorrow, so you can come and talk to us. But people have sort of drifted off. So we were going to ask you to sing again, but I think what I'm going to do is I'm just going to say the words of this kind of universal prayer for you all, if that's okay, and send you on your way for a cup of tea. So all I'm going to say to you is, may all beings be well. May all beings be happy. Peace, peace, peace. And thank you so much for listening to us. Thank you.